Onto your markets now. Asian stocks were mixed to fairly muted. This as global players await the latest inflation data to come out of the United States, which will likely influence views around interest rate cuts and when they might likely happen. Chinese investors were wary ahead of President Joe Biden's expected announcement around raising tariffs on Chinese goods. Over in Japan, the Nikkei share index ended the session up 0.46%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index declined by 0.22%, while over on mainland China, the Shanghai Composite Index ended the day more or less flat, down 0.071%. In the United States, stocks ended lower on Monday as investors took a breather after 3 weeks of gains. Market players await direction from key inflation readings and earnings reports due this week, while a survey showed that consumers remained concerned about inflation. The S&P 500 ended the day flat, while the Nasdaq Composite ended the day up 0.3%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average falling by 0.2%. Well, for more on the markets, I'm joined by Martin Smith. He's a portfolio manager at Anchor Capital. A very good afternoon, Martin. Thank you very much for joining us. So global market players really treading water as they wait for that US CPI number. Why is this so important for market players?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. We've seen a little bit of treading of water in the last few sessions. And I think it's on the fact that we're very data dependent at the moment insofar as kind of where the next move in the market goes. And interest rates are very, very important. At the beginning of the year, we were expecting 6 to 7 rate cuts starting in March. Now we're looking between 1 and 2, maybe starting in September only. So that interest rate decision has been kind of pushed all the way back, similarly to what's been happening in the SA side of things. So obviously, inflation data very, very important in informing that interest rate decision. So markets looking for about 3.6 and 3.4 from headline and core numbers respectively. And depending on where that comes in, it'll kind of inform the market as to where we see interest rate cuts going. So still about that 2% that the Fed looks for, but again, the market wants to see that kind of in line with expectations or a little bit better. So very, very important still.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens when we actually see that number come tomorrow. Let's get straight to home now. President Ramaphosa is set to sign the NHI bill into law tomorrow. Of course, it's come in for a lot of criticism by the private sector. We know that we have a number of healthcare counters on the local stock exchange. And I suppose this is quite a significant decision that's been taken. How are market players reacting to this? Have we seen any, impacts on the local market? And also as well, I noticed that the local currency, which has been doing extremely well, has begun to lose some ground.
Yeah, so I think unexpected insofar as how quickly it's happened. I think the market is always waiting for it to happen. I think the fact that it was this soon and as quick as it was, I think is taken everyone a little bit by surprise. And you've seen the likes of your medical aid providers, your discoveries and the like all sell down between 4 and 5% today. And this has been a bit of an overhang on all of those shares. And I think it will continue to be an overhang because I don't think that this is necessarily going to be implemented tomorrow. I think it'll take years and years and years before you get court decisions and proper implementation of this. So I think we're still quite a far way out from actual implementation of this, and until we kind of get resolution one way or the other, I think it's going to be an overhang on those stocks. Whether or not this impacted the rand is difficult to kind of ascertain because the rand is very, very liquid and quite a proxy for emerging markets. So you see it move quite a lot between this kind of 1830, 1950-ish level. So not 100% sure if it's weighed into that potentially, but it might also have been just a little bit of rand breathing after, like you mentioned, a very good last week or so.
Yeah. So mining production data came out. It came down by 5.8% in the month of March compared to the previous March of 2023. How do you see the fortunes or the backdrop for the local mining sector, especially given all the headwinds that the sector's had to enjoy in terms of logistics and, of course, energy as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I think overall, if you look at the sector and the underlying commodities and the companies, I think overall probably a lot better this year, but lots of nuances. For example, oil has been going up, but the likes of Sasol hasn't really been translating for them from a share price perspective. Looks quite cheap optically, but I think from a free cash flow perspective, it's not really that cheap, and that share's been underperforming a little bit. The PGMs have had quite a nice bounce, even though you've seen PGM prices being relatively flat. Gold has obviously been on a little bit of a tear lately on the back of interest rates in the States and global risk appetite and the likes. You've seen gold stocks go up. Copper's been very much in vogue and very much a topical metal. So those companies exposed to that have been doing very, very well. So there's lots of nuances and lots of different things going on. But overall, quite positive from a sector perspective, from an underlying commodity perspective, and from a share price perspective about these businesses.
So still on mining, we saw that BH Billiton made another advance towards Anglo American around, bidding to take it over, but it was rejected again. So what is really happening, and where's this bidding war that many analysts had anticipated?
Yeah, it's a good question, and so yeah, we've seen the bid being rejected. You've also seen Anglo's come out to say that they're going to be restructuring their portfolio and doing a few things which in the long term I think will be very, very beneficial for the business and a lot better from a cash flow and earnings perspective. In the short term, because they've rejected the bid, you've seen a share price come under a bit of pressure, I think down 4 or 5% at the moment. So interesting to see how it's going to play out. Billiton have until next week, Wednesday, to make another firm offer of intention. So let's see if they do that and what happens from there. And also to see if someone else comes in and also tries to bid. So this one's definitely not done yet, but I think we just need to kind of wait and see how things unfold in the next week or so.
Yeah, and just expand on for us as to what Anglo American is proposing now, and if it is good as far as you're concerned, what's the point of them selling themselves?
So I mean that's the question, right? I think you'd need to have a very, very attractive offer for them to choose to sell. And they're going to be way more copper-centric, which, like I mentioned during the show, is very much a topical and very green and very metal of the future insofar as its uses and the like, and green energy and all of those things. So it's going to be a bit more focused on things like copper. I think 60% of their business will be focused on copper. So things like that they're starting to do to, again, try clean up the business and have it be more beneficial for the long term. So it's going to be interesting to see if that's just something that they're doing, or if it's potentially not going to happen because you might see a takeover. So, like I said, definitely one to keep a very close eye on.
Absolutely. We'll keep a watch on that. Thank you so much, Martin. Martin Smith, he's a portfolio manager at Anchor Capital.